All right. Welcome back to Black Bear News. This ain't your mama's progressive channel. And as the great philosopher Socrates spent his life teaching people that they really didn't know anything. So if you can start there, you might be on your way to getting smarter. The early chatters are in. Greetings. Good to see you. Please remember to like the video. Thank you. Please remember to make sure you're still subscribed. Thank you. Good to see y'all here. Yep. So yeah, interesting news from the Jesse Ventura, the person that calls himself Jesse Ventura. Very interesting news. So hey, that's a bit of a shakeup this week. Before we get into that, let's get into this. This is very interesting. Well, somewhat interesting. It's pretty interesting. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. I don't know. Wasn't working last time. Emma Thompson is in a new Extinction Rebellion movie. Or it's actually like a little short. It's not, it's interesting. It's a movie, but it's kind of like a skit, I guess, if you will. I'm going to make sure you can see this. Since my hotkeys don't seem to be working. Anyways, it's worth watching. I watched it this morning. Oscar winner Emma Thompson stars in a new Extinction Rebellion film. It's kind of just like a little skit about Extinction Rebellion and, meeting with a member of Parliament around the Extinction Rebellion's demands, and it's entertaining, and it also has to do with climate change, so that's a good thing. Tomorrow we'll see the release. That's today. I think this is from yesterday. A new short film starring Emma Thompson about Extinction Rebellion. The film depicts a fictionalized version of the protests held by the activist group last April, which culminated in the UK becoming the first country to formally declare a climate emergency. The double Academy Award winner took part in last year's climate protests, which saw parts of the UK's capital grind to a halt during a fortnight of continuous civil disobedience. It was during this time that the short film entitled Extinction was shot. The 12-minute production tells the story of a group of climate activists meeting with the environment minister. I guess he's not a member of parliament. He's the environment minister in the midst of an ongoing rebellion, unless they are a part of parliament. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. The film will be available to view online for free. And it's available now. So I'll link this if you guys want to watch it. It's pretty good. Good quote from Naomi Klein. Clearly there's something about climate change that has some people feeling very threatened indeed, right? So you can see from the reaction to Michael Moore's film, oh yeah, people are really threatened. They're threatened by the idea that this is not an easier problem to negotiate than just building a lot of green energy, or just, transforming our energy economy into a green economy. Raza Remen says, I feel threatened by Naomi. Right. Okay. Well, I guess this is good for Extinction Rebellion in that, they have a bigger face. A famous person is on board. Obviously, it's the rich and the famous who seem to be contributing to climate change the most. So there's that. Raza says, "Hola, osos negros." Yeah, you saw it, human, right? Okay. So yeah, just check that out when you get a chance. It's something. It's a little dramatized enactment of Extinction Rebellion people doing Extinction Rebellion stuff. It's good. It's worth a watch. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Here's yet another article that kind of says the same things that we have been covering on this channel for years. Things that we all already know. Things that are prompting groups like Extinction Rebellion, not Extension Rebellion. I rebel against extensions. Extinction Rebellion and Greta Thunberg are protesting against is the idea that we're about to hit some major tipping points in climate change, in environmental destruction, in going over the falls as far as the sixth mass extinction, and nobody seems to be doing anything major about it or taking it seriously. Not unlike the coronavirus, right? The entire planet has locked itself down in response to the coronavirus, which all indicators point to being the smart thing to do. But if you have something called the sixth mass extinction looming, in the next, whatever it is, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you have something called the sixth mass extinction. You have extinction looming. The planet, the globe, the governments of the world can't seem to coordinate properly in the face of, something that will kill likely millions, if not billions, if not every last person on the planet. But something that's infected 3 million people and killed, whatever, 5% or less than those people. That requires a global lockdown. Anyway, so this headline: climate crisis, North Pole soon to be ice-free in summer. Scientists say if you have any kind of clue about climate change at all, this is happening. This is going to happen. It's really kind of makes no sense to ignore the idea that this is going to happen. I don't know what ignoring it is going to do for anybody. Besides, making you feel okay for the time being until eventually you can't feel okay. The Arctic Ocean will likely be ice-free during summers before 2050, researchers say. That's what they say. Amid rapid global warming, with average Arctic temperatures already 2°C above what they were in the pre-industrial era, the extent of the sea ice is diminishing ever faster. Ever faster. As the climate crisis worsens, scientists say it is now only the efficacy of protection measures, okay, where are they, which will determine for how many more years our planet will continue to have a northern ice cap year-round. Where are these protection measures? Are they in green energy? What say you? A major new piece of research involving 21 leading institutes and using 40 different climate models has found that whatever action is taken, we are on course to see ice-free summers in the coming decades. So whatever action, this is the important thing to understand. Whatever action is taken, we are on course. So what do we do? How do we deal with that? What are the actual actions that are being taken? What are the actual actions that need to be taken? The research is published in journals Geophysical Research Letters. The scientists considered the future of Arctic sea ice cover in scenarios with high future CO2 emissions and little climate protection. As expected, Arctic sea ice disappeared quickly in summer in these simulations. We ran some computers. The computers told us what's actually running in reality. But the study also found that Arctic summer ice sea ice also disappears occasionally if CO2 emissions are rapidly reduced. So in that simulation, if we rapidly reduce CO2, it disappears occasionally. not totally or permanently. Dirk Notz, who leads the sea ice research group at University of Hamburg, said, if we reduce global emissions rapidly and substantially, and thus keep global warming below 2°C relative to pre-industrial levels, Arctic sea ice will nevertheless likely disappear occasionally in summer, even before 2050. Well, what if he said even before 2040 or even before 2030? What if he said those words? Is that a possibility? More likely a probability, but we'll see. Certainly before 2040. Do we have until 2030? It's not looking good. Magic 8 Ball says, not bloody likely. Currently, the North Pole is covered by sea ice year-round. Is it? Mostly, kind of, sort of. Each summer, the area of the sea ice cover decreases. In winter, it grows again. All right. So, again, news from what almost everybody on the planet should know already, except for the lunatics that believe that somehow we're in a solar minimum, the lunatics that somehow believe that ice is growing, or we've got more ice than ever. I don't, these people, they don't live anywhere except for in their heads, or they live in their computers. Where do they live? Yeah, what are the protection measures, Russ Taylor? Has anybody outlined the protection measures for Arctic sea ice? Have we seen a protection measures bill in Congress? Have we seen scientists? I think the protection measures obviously is what they're saying is reducing CO2, but have we seen is there a research paper? If there is one, please correct me. Please send me the research paper that says protection measures for Arctic sea ice. Anyways, yeah, let's move on. So it's rather ridiculous, of course, to read these news articles over and over again, and the voices of concern are getting louder, certainly getting louder. The protests are getting louder and more numerous. The people are getting more concerned. The people are totally behind and understand the need, and maybe not all the science surrounding the Green New Deal, but certainly people understand there's a problem and that some action might be needed. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. So the voices are growing louder. People are very upset about the lack of response or even the lack of acknowledgement around climate change. And, that leads us to this here election cycle in the U.S. between a climate change denier and somebody who will certainly be the champion of climate change lip service if they are in the office of the president at the White House, and that would be Joe Biden. Why would we know this about him? Well, because the person that he formerly served under, who was the former president of the United States, was one of the leading champions of lip service on climate change. Certainly he tried, and I won't take that away from him. Certainly he actually made some action while simultaneously ramping up oil production, U.S. oil production and U.S. fracking, and allowing Arctic drilling or exploration until everybody got really, really mad. And then he was like, well, maybe we won't do that. Maybe we'll stop it. And everybody was like, yay. After he was the one who allowed it in the first place. And there's no evidence that Joe Biden will be any different on climate change. So, the big news of the week or one of the big news stories of the week seems to be, lo and behold, Jesse Ventura is weighing presidential run on the Green Party ticket. And wowzers, it's actually one of the more interesting developments of the political, I guess, atmosphere in 2020. This is probably one of the better things I've seen. I mean, just when things were looking incredibly dark, with Joe Biden just does not stand a chance at this point. And with all the opposition research / criminal investigations going on around the Democratic Party, things dealing with like Spygate and General Flynn and what was going on around all of that, looking to actually smash the Democratic Party even further down into a hole, with no chance of beating Trump. This is actually a sign of light, possible light at the end of the tunnel, if ever there was one. Jesse Ventura weighing presidential run. So he hasn't entered the race yet. If you can find him on Twitter, maybe send him a message. If you think this is a good idea, maybe urge him to say yes to this idea. Jesse Ventura has admitted he's considering jumping in the ring with a wild card presidential run only days after bashing rumors about it. Okay, I've decided I'm going to test the waters. If I were going to run for president, the Green Party would be my first choice. And that's excellent, right? He's really known to be mostly anti-establishment, / libertarian political figure. But the fact that he wants to go green is pretty great. I love this idea. I'm all for this idea. 68-year-old turned Minnesota governor tweeted Monday, to be clear, I haven't filed anything. I authorized a letter of interest that was sent on my behalf to the Greens. And I'm testing the waters for the Green Party nomination, which actually comes in good timing also for the Greens, because it appears that the leading nominee for the Green Party presidential ticket is somebody who seems to be towing more of like a neoliberal Democratic platform. He's not as left as most Greens have been in the past, and he seems to actually align himself with some of the more the more neoliberal Democratic type ideas, like Russiagate, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, he goes on to say, I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican because I know they're not the solution. His admission confused many followers as it came after a tweet storm Thursday in which he attacked rumors of a run as salacious clickbait articles. Just like everyone said you would, you denied it and got angry about it. Okay, so somebody got mad at him. But they're mad at him. Do not run, they scream at Governor Ventura. He was one of the many who urged him not to split the vote as a wild card candidate, while many others reckoned he could be a knockout. And that is more true than not. File now. We need you to get in the race. You can and will win this if you get in this. One Green Party fan, Marie Fonseca, told him. This is pretty great. I'm all for this because, Jesse Ventura, obviously kind of fills again the space of an anti-establishment figure, more anti-establishment than even Bernie or Trump. He's actually more radical than a Bernie or Trump. And that's right, Jesse ain't got time to bleed. Exactly. He could actually be a people's version of Trump, or a real anti-establishment populist, whereas Trump seems to be anti-establishment and or populist mainly in name only, or in words only, excuse me. He's completely anti-establishment. I would say that he would represent a credible threat to the system. They would seek to discredit him at all costs. And they already are. I'm going to read you an article where they're already trying to squash any idea of Jesse Ventura running or winning. They're trying to squash that down already. If he does jump in, look for some serious smearing by the establishment. But this is the time. The Democrats are completely clueless in how to beat Trump. And of course, because he's running on the green ticket, it will be the Dems that are the most upset about this. Watch closely if this happens. Watch how rabidly the mainstream media will attack him and at the same time try to ignore him. But he's got more spine than Bernie, and there's no one he's beholden to. And he's more libertarian than a progressive on some levels. He could unite the entire spectrum of independents, left and right, that could not just stop Biden, but stop Trump as well. I imagine people are just bone tired of Trump on the right, and if given a truly viable anti-establishment option, I think he could be the one to do it. I thought, and a lot of people thought the same thing in 2016, that if Bernie had jumped out and taken the Greens' offer of running on the ticket, that he could have effectively destroyed the two-party system. But he capitulated completely to the Democratic Party, and there's just no chance that Bernie will ever be, the leader of any kind of revolution on any level. I mean, those days are long gone. But here we go, like out of the shadows, out of the great white north, if you will. Ventura, throws his hat possibly in the ring as a Green Party candidate. Could he be the one to break the two-party system? Please remember to like the video, guys. Thank you if you're watching. I appreciate it. I think he could. I think he has an excellent chance because Biden is toast. If you give somebody else an option, a viable option, I mean, so many people were distraught at having to choose between Trump and Hillary last time around. I mean, so many people were like, oh my God, ugh. And I was one of those people, ugh. Why these choices? Why are we left with these choices? And, there was another choice, and that choice was Jill Stein, and she was much more to a lot of people's liking. And here's the funny thing about the argument that Jill Stein somehow got Trump elected. The Libertarian candidate actually got 3 times more votes than Jill Stein did. So if the Libertarian candidate is going to take any votes away from anybody, it would be the right. It would be Trump. You're right. The dude, Howie Hawkins, seems pretty sucky. He does seem very sucky. So, if the Green Party last time around took votes away from the Dems, it didn't equal the amount of votes that were taken away from the right or from Trump. So that argument is actually false. And so you can't blame Jill Stein, can't blame the Greens. And, to all the people that are like, the argument that, oh my God, well, we just absolutely have to vote Trump out. I mean, wasn't that the argument last time? We absolutely have to keep Trump out. That was the same argument. And he's been president. Okay. He's not great on many levels. He's completely dropping the ball on the coronavirus response. I agree. But nobody else is going to be president for the next 10 months. So, we're stuck with him for now. But the idea that, I've heard some other people brought up the idea that possibly, Trump's been waiting for his second term so he could really ramp up the war. Or, this is the time when he's going to attack Iran. Really? I find that to be a dubious argument. I really find that to be a dubious argument. He hasn't shown, he's actually, for better or worse, and in not a very good fashion, he's tried to get us out of Syria and Afghanistan. Trump has. I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not voting for Trump. Didn't vote for Trump. Not going to vote for Trump this time. The thing is that I'm not voting for Biden. So there you go. Prankensquire says Ventura Turner sounds like a great ticket. Yeah, people have proposed Ventura Nina Turner, or Ventura Tulsi Gabbard. I would also wholly and fully endorse that. Ventura with his very strong anti-establishment sentiment, as well as Tulsi Gabbard, her anti-military industrial complex views. I think either one of those would be a great ticket. I Am Sweet Leaf says, I think it's too late for Jesse. Why? Why do you think it's too late? I don't think it's too late at all. Nobody's had any conventions. There's been nobody's been officially nominated by any party. Why not? Why not? No, everybody assumes that it's Trump against Biden. Of course, that's right. But, were we in a regular year? Were we in a regular primary race? Were we in a race where the people running in the primary actually fought like cats and dogs to actually win the race instead of rolled over like a sick puppy like Bernie Sanders for Joe Biden? Because Trump is so bad. Were we in a regular primary, this wouldn't be over until June. We still wouldn't be over. We still wouldn't be done with the primaries. So, it's not too late as far as the year 2020. And Jesse Ventura certainly still has a lot of political capital. He still has a huge amount of name recognition. He's a huge celebrity. I agree with you, Jenny Malloy. I respect Jesse. They'll go after him with a vengeance. He's intelligent and humane. So let's look a little bit more at not Jesse Ventura, but Jesse Ventura. So there's this article in Bloomberg, Will Amash and Ventura shake up the race? This is from a couple days ago. This is a pretty funny article. Third-party candidates can sometimes sway a presidential election. Don't count on it this time. So they're already going, no. They're not going to have any effect at all. They're already telegraphing to you what to think about this. This is Bloomberg doing their job for the establishment, being the good propagandists that they are. So who knows who Justin Amash is? Does anybody know who he is? Nope, I don't. So Justin Amash, the reason why they put him next to Jesse Ventura is to make it seem like both of these guys are nobodies. And that's actually just completely false, because Justin Amash is an absolute nobody. Jesse Ventura everybody knows who Jesse Ventura is. He's huge. But this is the whole tone of the article, right? Has jumped into the presidential race as a Libertarian Party candidate. This follows news that Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, may run for the Green Party nomination. The first question about such a candidate is, as opposed to what? Both parties will be on the ballot in a lot of states, which means that if not Amash and Ventura, someone else will be filling those slots. So they could just be anybody. They could just be warm bodies. Ventura, an erstwhile wrestler and actor, is, I suppose, moderately famous. Who the fuck wrote this article? What lunatic wrote this article? They didn't mention the fact that he used to be the governor of Minnesota. They just left this out. That he's extremely famous, that he has a show on RT, that he's had multiple shows on mainstream media. They just left all of that out. An erstwhile wrestler and actor. So they've already started to slam Jesse Ventura. They've already started to downplay him, to destroy his chances. This is the beginning. They've already done it. He hasn't even announced yet, but they're trying to make it look like he's just some dude. He's just some guy. Neither man enters the contest with any real political following. Bullshit. Jesse Ventura used to be the governor of Minnesota. You idiot. You hack. You ridiculous excuse for a journalist. How are you even allowed to write for Bloomberg? This is disgustingly inept. In other words, there's no reason to expect either to have a chance to win even a single electoral vote. Because, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, everybody just loves them so much. I have no idea why Ventura is running. But Green Party candidates in recent cycles have mostly tried to help Republicans win, right? Because that's what they do. They don't actually have a platform that they believe in. They're just there to help Republicans win. They have a model for that kind of campaign. That's their model, is to help Republicans win. If the party actually wanted to boost its membership, the best strategy would be to campaign only in states with lopsided party majorities, where voters concerned about, say, the climate could vote Green without having to worry about throwing the election to an incumbent who has governed by supporting as much global warming as possible. Right. As if Jesse Ventura, he actually believes in climate change. And I'm sure, would be fully behind some kind of action, some kind of focused action on climate change. As for Amash, he's a principled small government libertarian who thinks Trump is unfit for office. Oh, well, there's an original thought. Well, there, right there. That's, a super original platform to run. Trump is unfit for office. Oh, like we haven't heard this from the Democratic Party. If his main goal is to defeat the president, he should run a campaign focused not on Trump's deficiencies, but on policy. Well, you got that right. At least this author has at least one good thought in their brains. Anti-Trump ads are unlikely to shake Republican voters. This is a weird article. This is really ridiculous. Justin Amash, no, not one person knows who Justin Amash is. Do you? I don't. Nobody knows who Justin Amash is. But they're trying to equate Jesse Ventura with Justin Amash as like, what? I can't even. What was the Libertarians' candidate's name? Was it Gary Johnson? Last time, 2016. He got more votes than the Green Party, than Jill Stein. But I can assure you, if Jesse Ventura runs on the Green ticket, I can assure you, I will be taking bets. We'll be running a betting pool on the fact that Jesse Ventura is certainly going to get more votes than any Libertarian candidate, and possibly could take a big percentage of the vote. And I would say he would take that percentage away from both left and right, because there are more independent voters. If there was an independent party, if you just amalgamated all the independent voters, they equal more in number than either party on their own, right? So if somebody could appeal to all of those independent voters, they would actually have a bigger party following than either the Republicans or the Democrats. And then how many people do you take away from both of those parties? If they say, well, yeah, I'm not so keen on Trump or Biden, maybe we'll go with Ventura. If Greens go with Jesse, I would consider, this is from the dude, if the Greens go with Jesse, I would consider it proof positive that they have no interest in gaining actual power. If they don't go with Jesse, Ventura would almost certainly breach the 5% ballot access threshold. And that's the other thing as well, is that I believe if they breach that threshold, they are open to getting some financing from the government, right? So that would also help them as well. QuizTune says smear campaigns are so predictable indeed. I mean, it's funny how quickly that happened, right? He's not even announced yet, but they were like, they already wrote an article saying like, who's this guy? Who's this Jesse Ventura guy? Anybody heard of him? Oh my God, they're so like transparently stupid. Jesse Ventura would certainly make the establishment lose their minds. They would lose their minds. I mean, get ready for an absolute circus if he announces green. And if people start going, hey, I think I'm going to go Ventura. If he starts picking up momentum, they are going to lose their absolute minds over this. And they'll run the Bernie playbook at him. They'll ignore him. They won't follow any of his rallies. They'll act like he doesn't exist. If they do say anything about him, they'll call him a conspiracy theorist, a radical, a Russian bot. Everything that they've already done, they'll do that and more. Here's Jesse Ventura on climate change.
There's a reason. Don't send those polecats back to Congress. Send them back to science class. Each week I tell you stay vigilant and you ask me how. Here's step one. Don't re-elect any of those 3 polecats in November. Let's go to my vigilant producer, Alex Logan, with our countdown on 3 polecats who not to vote for.
So he's talking about climate deniers. He's talking about not voting in these climate deniers. He said, send him back to science class. So he believes in climate change. That's why he would pick the Green Party as his party, because he believes in climate science. He believes in climate change. He believes that it's an issue that needs to be addressed. I mean, if you have somebody with his kind of name brand recognition on the Green Party ticket, this would be, ultimately, this could turn into, this could go from one of the worst political years ever to one of the best political years ever. Because if you like that Valhalla polecats. He does stay true to himself, indeed. He's a real guy. He is a very real guy. Joe Rogan is campaign manager. I love it. Rich Diana. Now we're talking. Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, he would bring in so many people, so many like authentic people into the political process. I mean, this would be mind blowing. Yeah, I'm going to spend like the next 3 days tweeting at Jesse Ventura to please run. Please do it. And, on top of that, he also has enough name brand recognition. I think it would be hard to really do something underhanded to him, as far as like trying to get him out of the race. They could throw all the mud at him, possible that they could drum up. They could do the whole media apparatus 24/7 anti-Jesse stuff to him, but they couldn't really take him out, on a Paul Wellstone level, right? Or a JFK level. They wouldn't be able to do that because it would just be so obvious. But will they try? Oh, I'm certain they will. So I don't know. I mean, I see fairly strong support in the chats for this idea. I'm all for it. I mean, it would be. I'm Sweet Leaf. Yes, I would be extremely excited. I mean, I would be. Yeah, you just hear me nauseatingly talk about trying to get Jesse elected for the next 6 months. But hey, whatever needs to be done, I'm all for it. I'm all in because we need another option. We absolutely need another option, and even a lukewarm option would have been great. Like I probably would have went green, even and I would have even had to hold my nose on some level for the Green Party candidate they've already been throwing out there. I might have even opted for something else if there's another viable candidate out there. But I think, if Jesse Ventura can consolidate a lot of the factions, right? The not just the Greens, but some worker party people, some People's Party people, the Sunrise Movement, the climate change movement. If he can consolidate a lot of these different groups that are vying for viability, and I think that he could. Trump Ventura debate might go violent. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Not the violence, but just like Jesse Ventura in a debate with Trump would just mop him. If you've seen Jesse Ventura in interviews when they try to get him to break down or try to come at him, he's good. He's really good. Anyways, I'm going to end the video with this article from a couple of weeks ago. This is from Bank Track. Stop the money pipeline. Private banks owning oil companies is a recipe for disaster. Do you think so? The news that major U.S. banks like JP Morgan Chase are preparing to ask regulators to allow them to take direct ownership of oil and gas companies should ring major alarm bells on Capitol Hill and across the nation, according to organizations with Stop the Money Pipeline Coalition. On Thursday evening, Reuters reported that JP Morgan Chase and Company, Wells Fargo and Company, Bank of America Corp., and Citigroup, Inc. are each preparing to set up independent companies that could directly own oil and gas assets. So Chase and Wells Fargo want to cut out the middleman and go into the oil business. Oh boy, directly destroying the climate. Greed does weird things to your mind and your heart, said our old friend Bill McKibben, co-founder of 350.org. I'm glad to see him speaking out against this. That's actually completely and totally respectable. These plans are in direct contradiction to the bank's stated goals of addressing the climate emergency. The only possible justification for taking an ownership stake in an oil and gas company would be to immediately begin winding down production and retiring existing assets, while taking care of workers by providing full benefits and pension guarantees. According to the Reuters reporting, however, banks seem to be planning to do just the opposite, attempting to move the companies back into profitability, likely by taking advantage of federal bailout money that would go to working families. Of course, they will. This is like a bookie purchasing the track, only the track is a dying industry killing our chance at a future. Clearly, these banks' climate commitments aren't worth the recycled paper they are written on, says Tara Huska, Kuchiching First Nation, founder of Gineu Collective. It's our money in their vaults. Hitting withdrawal is long overdue. There is little reason to believe that the four banks mentioned in the article have any intention of mitigating the climate impact of their actions. JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America are in that order the four largest global bankers of fossil fuels, as detailed in the recently released Banking on Climate Change Fossil Fuel Finance Report 2020. JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Citi are on the top four fracking banks in the world. and the top 4 fossil fuel banks in the world. This development exposes the central role of banks in fossil fuels and clearly illustrates the riskiness of fossil finance, said Jason Opeña Disterhoft. Let me read that correctly. Senior campaigner with Rainforest Action Network. As the COVID recovery goes forward, a common sense guardrail should be banks can't take public money without committing to zero out their fossil fuel financing. No bailout without fossil phase out. Well, that should be the case, shouldn't it? That should be the case. But who is actually campaigning against, who is actually representing us in Congress right now that could make sure that would happen? We've already had 3 stimulus bills passed, and not much or none of those kinds of guardrails have been put in place. So what are they talking about? This is already a done deal. And, are we going to see somebody actually fight for this kind of legislation now in the 4th stimulus? Again, the magic 8 ball says not bloody likely. We need real resistance from our leaders. We need to figure out a way to hold them accountable. I think that we should start doing so. I think that we should start, publicly ask them to take a stand on these issues, and letting them know that if they don't take a stand on these issues, if they do not hold our issues, hold fast for our issues in Congress, that they may get voted out. They may not get our votes. They may not be supported by us. But the likelihood of that is not really high right now. I mean, we've seen that the Democrats, even the progressives, have just rolled over. And now AOC, this time around, is saying, like, I'm going to vote no on the stimulus package. She voted, did she vote no on the last funding bill? That was like $500 million. Did she actually vote no on that? Let's find out. Let's see. So she voted against the last one, the $484 billion stimulus package, bringing a new round of funding to hospitals and relief. She was joined by 4 Republicans. So that was actually the round, I believe, the round 4 of voting. So this new one that they're talking about is round 5. The Republicans that voted against the last package were Jody Hice, Ken Buck, Thomas Massey from Kentucky, who was the only one to vote against the other ones, and Andy Biggs of Arizona. Independent Justin Amash, who we were just talking about, did not participate in the vote. He voted present. So he just didn't vote. Okie dokie. So we have more Republicans actually resisting these giveaways than we do Democrats. So that tells you how useless Democrats and progressives are in resisting these funding bills that are mainly giveaways and not they're low on helping the common people and high on handing out money to corporations and quote unquote small businesses, which was a bit of a joke actually if you guys have been following it. So in some of the small business funding in some of these bills, very large corporations qualify as small businesses because their individual they're individual standalone stores, right? Like Ruth Chris Steakhouse, etc. Because they only have a certain amount of employees for each franchise of the business. They qualify for these small funding loans, but these are actually huge, giant corporations who are taking money. And the stimulus packages, they absolutely don't need this money, and they're not small businesses. Again, very few Democrats, very few progressives are pointing these things out and, voting against these measures or trying to stop these measures from happening. So, yeah, the general fuckery abounds, as you all know. Gonna read a few more comments before I take off, guys. Thank you all for joining in this chat. Always making my day. I Am Sweet Leaf says, Ventura is worth the push and effort, no question. No argument. I am there, as Jesse has a substance that no one else has for POTUS that I've ever heard of. I agree. I mean, on top of the fact that the man has put out a book, is it titled Conspiracy Theories? I mean, somebody who is interested in uncovering the truth and peeling back the layer of the veneer of respectability that the government keeps trying to, they keep trying to keep the cloak down and the curtain pulled, but he's all for pulling back the curtain on this. On this kind of shenanigans. Wasn't Jesse Ventura the one also? He said something about the CIA comes and has a talk with you if you're ever elected. He said that the CIA came and talked to him when he was elected governor. They were like, yeah, they sit you down and they tell you, look, you're going to do this stuff. You're going to do what we tell you to do. He pulled back the curtain on that, which I am all for. I'm all about it. American Conspiracy. Thank you, Osama. So let's see. We're gonna see what happens. This is an interesting development. Hopefully he'll announce sooner than later. I'm hoping, maybe they can get something, hammered out in the next week or two at the latest. Yes, the establishment will absolutely hate this. Yes, this will absolutely be a mind blow to the establishment. And you can see the mainstream media already cranking up the presses to get everybody to hate on Jesse Ventura. They will try. Oh, and imagine the Twitter battles and the Facebook battles that are going to go on between establishment Dems and people going Jesse Ventura. Woo, that's going to be some fun. Basil Peterson, I'm going to go plant some rainbow carrots. Godspeed to you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be here at 10 a.m. So a little bit earlier tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So please tune in at that time. Until next time, peace.